Part 112. Heaven Swallowing Record. Author, Fengqing Yang. Chapter 1121. Of course Wu Yu didn't want to get involved in such a meaningless melee, it was just a waste of energy. The Dark Prince must have wanted to take advantage of the chaos to steal Wu Yu's divine gourd of all things, or even take revenge. However, he made a mistake, because the God of all things was not here at all. Remember the domain name of this website, Taiwan Novel Network Rightward Arrow. Moreover, when this moment of chaos broke out, Wu Yu used his transformation and hid in a corner. His body was already quite small, and now with the transformation of the somersault cloud, basically no God of all things could touch it. To him. Naturally, the Dark Prince had no idea where Wu Yu had gone. In fact, he didn't put much effort into finding Wu Yu, because like everyone else, he was in trouble at this time. Those golden beads of all gods, after they woke up, their bodies shone with golden light and turned into fist-sized golden light groups. The golden light groups were somewhat similar to what Wu Yu encountered in the Tunshan Demon Mansion. The green light moved like a meteor and hit the people present at the 8th level of the realm of asking. Boom! Within the 8th level of the ancient Soul Tower, a shocking roar suddenly sounded. Wu Yu saw that those guys who were at the 8th level of the realm, Emperor Yu, Emperor Xiao, Lan Qi, Lai Ameng, Mu Yongzi, etc., were all using their own methods to protect themselves and block the rough bombardment of their opponents. The attack of this God of all things is indeed simple, but it is also quite brutal and effective. It is so powerful that it is so terrifying that even a continuous mountain will be smashed and collapsed by a direct impact. At the moment of impact, golden lightning can even erupt, impacting their defenses. Just one is fine, but basically everyone here has to face hundreds or even thousands of gods of all things. Those gods of all things are charging fiercely in all directions, exploding with fierce golden lightning, and some gods of all things are attacked by the strong ones. Under it, it directly exploded and exploded. Wu Yu originally thought that this was a symbol of his death. Unexpectedly, in the blink of an eye, these broken lights reunited and returned to their original state. No wonder they had warned them many times before that the gods of all things were indeed quite terrifying. Wu Yu saw that everyone was in a panic. Although they might not die in battle, they would suffer huge losses if they fell into this chaos and were tired of facing the gods of all things. That crazy attack without fear of death. The entire space is filled with golden glare and lightning. Naturally, there are counter-attacks from these top powerhouses. They have the power to explode dozens of gods and gods in an instant. Each of them has top-level heavenly spirit tools. Unfortunately, because the scene is so chaotic, and the gods of all things are constantly being reborn, they may be suppressed like this for some time. It is estimated that the only person in the audience who is okay at all is Wu Yu. He is not very conspicuous, and only a few gods of all things nearby can notice him. Once they notice him, he can actually use the shape-shifting to avoid it. In the past, this was like a top-notch footwork. Wu Yu was constantly changing his position, allowing those golden gods of all things to jump into the air. Although he was blasted by the golden lightning several times, it was not a particular hindrance. The Prince of Darkness was looking for him while fighting, and it was particularly funny to see his anxious expression. Wu Yu was too lazy to talk to him. He kept a low profile. He mainly used his fiery eyes to look around. Before, this place was in a static state. He had never been able to detect any changes. Many mysteries could only be understood superficially. Place. Today is a state of chaos and turmoil, and only he can be immune to it, so he just takes advantage of this opportunity to see if there are any changes in the 8th level of the Soul Tower at such a time. Of course, he didn't have high hopes. Now he was confused about the flame golden pearl and couldn't see the direction at all. It is a miracle that there are so many gods of all things in the ancient Soul Tower of the ancient Emperor. The tens of thousands of golden beads, after a quarter of an hour passed, did not decrease at all, which is really incredible. If they could not be reborn, these top cultivators, ghost cultivators, and demons would have almost destroyed tens of thousands of gods of all things. If they continue like this and suffer continuous impacts, they will always be tired one day, and they may even encounter unexpected events here, so it can be seen that their faces are relatively nervous, including the three emperors' sons and daughters. Soul Stone. Wu Yu spent most of the time looking at the Soul Stone, or studying the differences in the surrounding walls at this time. As time passed, he discovered that even though it was so chaotic, there was actually no change here. So, I still don't have the slightest clue. It's better to stay down here and wait for the flame golden pearl to appear. There are still some possibilities. He was a little discouraged. Thinking about the flame golden pearl, there are so many treasures, and he has already come to this point, from impossible to now with huge possibilities. It is simply impossible for him to give up at this time. He relaxed a little and looked at the battlefield around him casually, no longer thinking about things like soul stones. Suddenly, Wu Yu felt as if he was dazzled. Among the chaotic, tens of thousands of golden beads, he seemed to have seen a strange thing just for a moment, and it disappeared in a flash. If you look carefully, you can't find it? Could it be that thing? Wu Yu shuddered, and his whole body suddenly tensed up. He completely shifted his attention to his eyes, and continued to perform the third level of the somersault cloud. This time Wu Yu directly entered the battlefield, looking up and down, left and right, and observing everywhere. This chapter is not over yet. Please click on the next page to continue reading the exciting content below. Could it be that I saw it wrong? He also doubted it. After all these golden beads are the same. If I saw it wrong, it is normal. However, he thought it might be possible, so he continued to persist, talking among the crowd, looking for what he had just vaguely seen among the countless golden beads. That is the flame gold bead. To be honest, the moment Wu Yu came in, he thought that the ground outside was full of flame gold beads. These golden beads are very similar to the flame gold beads. Even the golden light shining on them now is also the flame gold beads. The only difference is that the flame gold beads do not have eyes, mouths, and other facial features, and they will not make any sound. If it is said that I saw it wrong, it is indeed quite normal. But Wu Yu suddenly had an idea. Is it possible that the flame gold pearl is hidden in these golden beads? If this possibility really exists, it is not surprising that they have not seen the flame gold pearl in the past few months. For an unrealistic and hopeless idea, Wu Yu has invested a lot of effort in it. I am afraid that he will not stop until the battle stops. The ancient emperor is a person who does not play cards according to reason. I must have a thinking that breaks through common sense to keep up with his pace. With this thought in mind, others are fighting with the gods of all things, while Wu Yu is in this group of gods of all things, looking for a flame gold pearl that is only slightly different from all gods of all things. A quarter of an hour, 2/4 of an hour, the hope in his heart will become less and less as time goes by, and the chaos is even more chaotic at this time. They even discussed that they should temporarily go to the 7th level of the Soul Tower, but they are unwilling to go down by themselves and others stay here, so they are discussing that everyone should go down together and no one can stay here. After a few days, the gods of all things here fall into sleep again, and they will come up together. Now there are still the Dark Prince, Yin Yang Fish and others who have not expressed their opinions. Once they all agree, basically everyone will go down together and retreat at the same time. They didn't ask Wu Yu, but they must force Wu Yu to go down. Wu Yu sighed. He felt that he might still be a little whimsical. When he was ready to go down, his eyes accidentally saw a special existence again. In fact, those golden beads were constantly spinning and attacking, but Wu Yu saw a golden bead that didn't attack much, hiding everywhere, and even after turning around, it seemed that there was no irrelevant golden bead. Wu Yu didn't think about anything at this moment. There was only one thing in his mind, that is, to get this Xuanhuan gold bead. In fact, he just wanted to take a look at the 8th and 9th levels at the beginning, and he was not sure that the treasure must be here, but now he has some confidence that this is probably the real Xuanhuan gold bead. This time, he was actually very close. He had a new method, which was to change his shape and shadow. At this time, he basically said nothing. His figure changed rapidly and appeared everywhere. It was impossible to grasp his position. Suddenly, Wu Yu appeared in front of this special bead. Without saying anything, he stretched out his arms and held the bead in his arms. There was no way. In order to be flexible, his body was a little small now. In fact, even if he held it at this moment, Wu Yu could not be sure that what he got was the flame gold bead. But what happened in the next moment made him believe it. That was at this moment, those gods of all things who attacked violently suddenly stopped in place. The entire 8th level of the Soul Tower fell into a dead silence, and those cultivators were also frightened by this situation. Then, all those gods of all things turned and aimed their scarlet and violent eyes at Wu Yu. It can be seen that they were more restless and had a stronger murderous intent. At this time, it was as if they had given up on others and completely resisted Wu Yu. Now Wu Yu can really be sure that this is definitely the flame gold bead. Successful, he was a little confused, perhaps because happiness came too suddenly. Perfect anti-theft chapter. Please use search engines to search for keywords. Various novels are available for you to read. Heaven Swallowing Record. Author, Fengqing Yang. Chapter 1122. However, he still didn't believe that it was successful, and the fact was that at this moment, the flame gold pearl actually burst out with a terrifying force and rushed in one direction. Wu Yu didn't bring the floating life tower with him this time, so he could only hold it down tightly, but he didn't expect that the flame gold pearl was so powerful that it dragged him to fly. All this actually happened in the blink of an eye. Wu Yu felt that the flame gold pearl seemed to be scared, or like a frightened little beast, struggling and escaping desperately. And those gods of all things were glaring at Wu Yu, but they did nothing. That's the flame gold pearl, I don't know who exclaimed. They were not young anymore, but at this time, they were still a little out of control, and even their voices were broken. Maybe in this world, for them, nothing can make them feel more irritable, panic, painful and angry than seeing someone holding the flame gold pearl in their hands. Especially the three princes and princesses, seeing that the one holding the flame gold pearl was not another prince, but was also an imperial envoy, their inner irritability would be even stronger. Death or becoming an immortal. Of course, they would do everything to become immortals. Speaking of which, Wu Yu was really the only one who had really encountered the flame gold pearl since entering the ancient Soul Tower. In the flash of lightning, no one could react, including Wu Yu himself. He could only hold down the flame gold pearl tightly to prevent it from being broken free. If this was in the first 7 layers, he might have used the second layer of somersault cloud at this time and directly transferred to a distant place, but the 8th layer was too small. No matter where he transferred to, there were other strong men and those gods of all things around. The next moment, he found that the place where the flame gold pearl took him to attack was actually the soul stone. At this time, Wu Yu finally felt the specialness of the soul stone. The flame gold pearl rushed up desperately as if it was a life-saving straw. Wu Yu was less than half a foot away and was dragged up directly. In the flash of lightning, he and the flame gold pearl hit the soul stone. In fact, he was very close to the soul stone, so everything was over the moment everyone found Wu Yu holding the flame gold pearl. People never expected that when the flame gold pearl hit the soul stone, a small vortex of gold and black intertwined with each other was born. The diameter was only about 2 inches. The flame gold pearl could just enter, but Wu Yu was also pulled in because his body was also small. Then in an instant, the vortex disappeared, and the soul stone returned to its original state. In the next instant, the golden beads in the vortex in the sky fell to the ground and bounced everywhere. The light and lightning on them completely disappeared. A closer look revealed that at this time, they all turned into ordinary golden balls. They were just sleeping before, but now even the eyes, nose, and mouth on them are gone. The entire 8th level of the Soul Tower fell into a deathly silence. Everyone is safe now. They are all panting and looking at each other. Everyone can see the cyan, pale, despair, anger, and irritability in other people's faces. I don't accept it. I don't accept it. There must be something fishy going on. Wu Yu and that Le Daizi are impossible. It was the ancient emperor who arranged all the way until he was sent here. When we were in chaos, he personally delivered the Yanhuang gold pearl to him. This is simply a trap, playing us like fools, and then using Le Daizi and Wu Yu as stepping stones to send them to become the Yanhuang emperor. This is all designed. The long-term suspicion finally broke out at this time. The person who spoke was the Dark Prince. His veins were bulging, and his gray hair and ferocious eyes looked around angrily. This is in the ancient Soul Tower of the ancient emperor. However, he also felt extremely unfair and couldn't bear it, so he said such words. Who would have thought that a young man who is less than 100 years old could improve his strength like this after coming in? First, he heard the ancient emperor preaching, and changed every time he saw him. Now he even got the Yanhuang gold pearl. Haha, it's really a joke. We are really a bunch of fools. If we had known that this was destined, why would we have worked so hard? The young emperor of the heavenly demon empire also looked a little crazy at this time. In fact, he had already guessed this. Every time he saw Wu Yu, he thought so. Now this guess has finally come true. It's not just us who have been deceived, but also the tens of thousands of people who came into this ancient soul tower to play with them. It's really unexpected, really unexpected. After all, who would have thought that this was actually a game with a set ending? Huang Guzi of the 9th realm of Huangquan also laughed at this time, with a somewhat miserable face. Even the Crown Prince Xianjinzi of the Jinyao Central Empire had a gloomy face and said, if anyone here can get it, I will accept it. But it's really hard to accept that you lost like this. After all, he is a cultivator, and he doesn't dare to directly say that the ancient emperor set up such a shady deal, but at this time he is really too aggrieved. I can only say that it's a bit obvious. Lan Chi Lai Ameng shook his head and smiled bitterly. Everyone said something similar, but in fact, the meaning was the same, that is, Wu Yu's success just now was all designed by the ancient emperor. All his previous strengths were designed, and even his ability to reach the 8th level was sent by the ancient emperor. What are you three feeling now? Pain. Disappointment. If it were me, I would probably go crazy. They are all children, why are they treated differently? The yin-yang fish demon who burned the sea looked at the three people including Emperor Yu's son. Shut up. Emperor 11's daughter closed her eyes and took a deep breath, but everyone saw that there was a tear in the corner of her eye. She was not convinced. In fact, she was even more aggrieved. This chapter is not finished yet, please click on the next page to continue reading the exciting content. After all, it's not fair. No, actually I think he is right, we are very pitiful, haha. Emperor Xiao laughed at himself. Emperor Yu's face looked a little scary. He sat on the ground, looked at the golden beads on the ground, picked up one, and crushed it into pieces. Next, there was deathly silence. Suddenly, Xue Qingyin, who was in the snow god realm, said, by the way, he has disappeared for a while. Why haven't we left the ancient soul tower yet? Does this mean that we haven't gotten him yet? Don't think too much. You must inherit something. The routine is not always like this. Is it Wu Yu or the emperor's son? Nonsense, of course it's the emperor's son. Wu Yu is just an errand boy, the dark prince sneered. Xuanhuan said, "Why did the ancient emperor let an errand boy be so strong? Couldn't he just let him be the emperor's son? This Wu Yu, after all, is an outsider from Yanhuang." In fact, they all wondered about this matter, but when asked, no one could tell the answer, so the silence that followed was like death. Feng Guo Tianyuntai. Why did those gods of all things stop? What did they say when they gathered around? Demon Lord Kunwu asked the black gold ant queen beside him. I don't know. There was a chaotic battle just now, but it suddenly stopped. I don't know what happened inside. I guess the attack stopped suddenly. They don't seem to look well. If the chaos has stopped, shouldn't they be happy? I don't know either. Where's Wu Yu? He has been using magical powers to shrink his body. It is difficult to see him several times. Demon Lord Kunwu asked again, does Lord Huang know what they are talking about? In fact, the mirror on the 8th level of the Soul Tower is a little blurry and cannot be seen clearly, and it has always been like this. Huangzun was silent at first, then she looked at the 9th mirror, which was still dark, and said, I don't know either. The ancient emperor is so enigmatic that we, mortals, can't understand it. After hearing what Huangzun said, they had no more questions. Of course, the same question also unfolded in other people's conversations. Wu Yu has reached the 8th level. Is it really possible for him this time? It's very possible. To be honest, after reaching this point, I still feel that the manipulation is a bit obvious. In fact, the golden flame pearl is controlled by the ancient emperor. It's not easy for the ancient emperor to give it to someone. You'd better not say this. Although it is a secret method of sound transmission, the ancient emperor has great magical powers. I just heard other people say that. It seems to be getting more and more boring, and everyone is a little helpless. In fact, they originally believed in the justice of the ancient emperor, but when Wu Yu rose up strongly inside, Emperor Yu almost became the new emperor of Yanhuang. Situation, they had to have a lot of ideas. If Wu Yu finally gets the Yanhuang gold pearl, then Emperor Yu becomes the new Yanhuang emperor. No matter how tortuous the process is, I will not believe that this is a fair competition. We are here to participate in the pilgrimage of all nations, and you have the right to doubt that. Actually, I'm like this too. As long as it's them, I don't believe it at all. I can only say that this is a well-designed game, but I don't understand it. How can Emperor Yu be so virtuous and capable? These years, those seniors, the contributions made by the Emperor's sons are countless times that of this Emperor's sons. These emperors are actually the most pitiable. Say less. The scene is still going on, but even on the Feng Guo Tianyuntai, there is less discussion. No way, haha. This laughter is actually very helpless. Inside the Dark Phoenix. What's going on? Emperor Yu's face turned pale in worry. Wu Yu's sky-swallowing body said, my body must be in a coma. Now I can't sense the surrounding situation at all. It seems to have been cut off. It seems to have entered a strange place. In fact, Wu Yu was more anxious than Emperor Yu. Emperor was anxious about the flame golden pearl, but Wu Yu was anxious about his own body. He almost never had such a situation. After all, coma is rare after practicing Taoism. Of course he knew that his body was not injured much now, but even if he fell into a deep sleep, if he didn't have the body of swallowing the sky, he wouldn't know what his situation was. It's a bit dangerous, Nanshan Wanjiao said. Should we go directly to the ancient demon world? This was what he considered out of fear of the ancient emperor. Wu Yu said, now may not be the time, but for the time being, there should be no problem. Don't worry, the ancient demon world has already been prepared. The ancient emperor is very mysterious, seemingly present and absent. Sometimes, it is indeed difficult for Wu Yu to judge. The ancient demon world is his last resort. For the chapter Perfect Anti-Theft, Please use the search engine to search for keywords and you can read various novels. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Heaven Swallowing Record. Author, Fengqing Yang. Chapter 1123. About 3 days later, Wu Yu woke up. The reason why he knew that he had been unconscious for 3 days was because of the heaven-devouring body. His two bodies were like the connection between his left and right hands, one body was asleep and the other was awake. This situation was a bit incredible to Wu Yu himself. However, he had no time to care about this incredible thing. Where am I? After waking up, he opened his eyes and everything in front of him became clear. The situation around him was a bit beyond his expectations. The 8th floor of the Soul Tower was a normal tower layer, while the first 7 floors were special worlds. He didn't know if this was the 9th floor of the Soul Tower. From the outside, the space of the 9th floor of the Soul Tower should not be very large. And the place where he was now should be much smaller than the 9th floor of the Soul Tower he imagined. This was a small room, only about 2 or 3 feet long, wide and high. In this space, Wu Yu couldn't even use the magic of heaven and earth to make it bigger. The rock material of the surrounding walls and the ground looked just ordinary stones. He seemed to have come to a very ordinary stone room. From his subjective feeling, if he exerted a little force, he might be able to shatter the stone room. But he didn't have such thoughts, because less than 3 feet in front of him, there was something floating in the air, that is, the flame gold pearl, which seemed to be quietly floating here at this moment. But there were some changes on it. It was originally a golden stone, but now some golden flames appeared, and the flames began to turn dark red, which was very violent. I remember that I pressed it down at that time, and it seemed to want to escape in a hurry, so it brought me here. In the middle, his body was unconscious. Fortunately, after waking up, the flame gold pearl was still here, and it seemed that it could not escape. And maybe it was touched by Wu Yu, and now it has changed a little. Hurry up, you have been unconscious for 3 days, and I can't see anything. Now you are trapped in the same place. I guess as long as you control the flame gold pearl, the dispute over the ancient soul tower should be over. I don't know what the ancient emperor is up to, but now you are probably going to succeed, Ming Long urged. Wu Yu checked his body and it seemed that there was no change from beginning to end. His whole body was under his control. It would be better if the floating life tower was not placed next to the devouring heaven body. Without the floating life tower, Wu Yu could only try to hold it down by himself. He guessed that the flame gold pearl might be like a Taoist weapon that needed to be subdued. All this time for the flame gold pearl, now it was right in front of him. Wu Yu certainly wouldn't hesitate too much, although the flame gold pearl had some changes at this time, but it couldn't stop his determination. But he was still a little confused in his heart. The flame gold pearl that so many people were crazy about fell into his hands so easily. This was just a little doubt, but he was still very decisive. He reached out and touched the flame gold pearl again. He was quite confident in his indestructible body and the toughness of the Vajrabuddha body of the great Sun Tathagata. Hold it again. Wu Yu clenched his hands and completely locked the flame gold pearl. There was indeed a flame burning on it, but the current degree was not enough to burn Wu Yu. When Wu Yu controlled the flame gold pearl with both hands, there was another 3 breaths of time. The flame gold pearl did not move, as if it was willing to be controlled by Wu Yu. Wu Yu breathed a sigh of relief. He felt that he might really succeed. After all, there were many treasures in it, and he was still very happy. That was a treasure that all nations made pilgrimages to. The owner was simply rich enough to rival a country. But, at the 4th breath, the flame gold pearl still resisted. I don't know where its power and burning came from. Suddenly, Wu Yu was like a mortal holding a fireball, or a beast of fire. It had terrible burning and super strong power, and it was instantly torn out of Wu Yu's hands. Looking down, his hands were already charred at this time. In this world of Yama, there were not many things that could burn Wu Yu's hands to charred black. The flame gold pearl seemed to be completely engulfed by the red flames at this time. It was very irritable. It violently smashed and ran around in the stone room. It seemed to be enraged, and it hit the floor crazily. Every time it was like a big hammer hammering the ground made a rumbling sound and produced a strong earthquake. After dozens of consecutive impacts, Wu Yu actually saw that the ground was cracked. Then, in a fierce collision of the angry flame gold pearl, a cave burst out of the ground, and the flame gold pearl rushed down from the hole. It's over. I didn't see such a good opportunity. Why don't you chase after them? Ming Long seemed to watch countless treasures fly away from under her nose. That feeling made her regretful. Wu Yu was a little shocked. He didn't expect that the Yanhuang gold pearl would have such a big direction, like a girl who was violated, but he moved quickly. He used the law of heaven and earth to change his body to the smallest, and followed the hole created by the Yanhuang gold pearl and shuttled down. The ground was actually very thick. When Wu Yu passed through the steel-like wall of about several feet, he finally saw the light. After a closer look, this was not the 8th floor of the Soul Tower. This means that the place he was just now was the 9th floor of the Soul Tower. I wonder if the people outside saw me unconscious for 3 days through the 9th mirror? This chapter is not over yet, please click on the next page to continue reading the exciting content. In the 8th level of the Soul Tower, all the 8th level of the Dao realm here before are here. Wu Yu followed Yanhuang Jinzu closely, and the time difference between them coming out was not particularly large, but before that, they must have felt the crack of the ceiling. Wu Yu just came out and heard several screams, Yanhuang Jinzu. His eyes swept over, and he saw the existence of Emperor Yu, Emperor Xiao, Lan Qi Lai Ameng, Prince of Darkness, Xianjinzi, Huang Guzi, etc. Almost everyone's eyes were on Yanhuang Jinzu not far in front of Wu Yu at this time. Although Yanhuang Jinzu had some changes, they still saw it quite clearly. It can be seen that they were very surprised. Wu Yu could guess that when he and Yanhuang Jinzu disappeared together, they felt that the opportunity was gone, but now he failed. There is no doubt that for them, they saw hope in despair. So for a while, it was probably another melee, and basically everyone attacked at the same time, and Wu Yu was completely ignored by them at this time. They fought for the flame gold pearl, and at the same time controlled each other to prevent others from getting it before them. Maybe they didn't understand how popular the flame gold pearl was at this time. The flame gold pearl had just appeared, and when it encountered so many enemies again, it was like an angry beautiful girl, and it let out a scream. This sound swept like a storm, forcing out all the means of those who were in the 8th level of the realm of asking questions, and even forced everyone, including Wu Yu, to retreat. At the moment when everyone was completely stunned, it accelerated and rushed into the black vortex leading to the 7th level, and disappeared in the 8th level of the Soul Tower in a blink of an eye. Slipped away. Chase. Almost at the same time, everyone reacted and rushed to chase down. In this process, some people restricted each other and attacked each other. After all, the vortex was not big, and there were too many people who had to go through at the same time. Wu Yu was faster and more flexible, and almost no one was willing to pay attention to him at this time, so he was quite smooth and almost the first to rush down. Unexpectedly, after reaching the 9th level, he had to chase back to the 7th level. At the same time, his Black Phoenix and Devouring Heaven body in the 7th level were also rapidly activated. It would be great if he could intercept the Flame Gold Pearl. After all, the 7th level was really big, and no one knew where it would come down. But Wu Yu guessed wrong. When he came to the 7th level, carrying those light spikes and rushing down, he could still see something more dazzling in the light of the 7th level. A piercing golden light appeared between the sky and the earth. The golden light was extremely huge. At this time, it was like a huge meteorite, crashing towards the ground. There was no doubt that it was the flame gold pearl, but it was obviously bigger. How could there be such a change? Does it have to undergo changes before it can be obtained? So, maybe from now on, someone can get the flame gold pearl. This is probably what he guessed. Judging from the direction where the flame gold pearl is falling now, it may still go to the 6th level, or even continue to go down. Behind him, those strong men of the 8th level of the realm of Taoism were chasing him down, and in the 7th level of the Soul Tower, those cultivators and demons of the 7th level of the realm of Taoism were also alarmed. Such a thing suddenly appeared, even if you don't know what it is, you have to chase it. Wu Yu's main body did not merge with the body of the devouring heaven, and directly used the 2nd level of the somersault cloud. The speed of the flame gold pearl was too fast now, and he had to jump to catch up with it. However, the jump was not very accurate. Finally, one time, Wu Yu appeared next to the flame gold pearl. At this time, he suddenly found that the flame gold pearl had turned into a golden sphere with a diameter of 3 feet, which was much larger than before. It was covered with terrifying golden flames, which could even burn the surrounding white light into ashes. Before he figured out how to control the flame gold pearl, the flame gold pearl rushed past him and continued to fall. It can be seen that it seemed to be getting bigger during this process. No matter what, let's go to the 6th level first. Anyway, it looked like the flame gold pearl was going to the 6th level, so he went directly down there, and the sky-devouring body also led his people down to the 6th level. Heaven-swallowing record. Author, Feng Qing Yang. Chapter 1124. What happened? There's a change up there. Although it was only for a moment, people on the Fengguo Tianyuan platform could still clearly see that in the 8th mirror, a flaming golden bead suddenly appeared, making everyone restless. Then, the flame golden pearl appeared on the 7th level mirror. Among the countless white lights, the golden, changing flame gold pearl was particularly bright. At that moment, they seemed to have seen Wu Yu suddenly appear. He was next to Nayang golden pearl, but was quickly thrown away. A golden fireball fell in the world of light, which was not particularly eye-catching. Not long after, the screen on the 6th mirror turned and completely froze on a huge golden sphere. It definitely looked like a flame gold bead. Everyone had seen the patterns on it, but it was already quite large at this time. In the dark world on the 6th level of the Soul Tower, because of the appearance of the flame gold bead, there seemed to be a sun in the sky. For a moment, the entire dark world suddenly shone. There is no doubt that everyone in the Soul Tower, everyone on the 6th level of the tower saw this flame gold bead. What's this? Everyone asked the same question. There's such a big movement, it couldn't be the flame golden pearl. No way. Smash it down, go and have a look. Even if they don't know what it is, everyone can't help but want to know. It seems that it is really coming to an end. This flame gold bead has changed. In the end, who can get it? People outside, and even the entire world of Yanfu, were all focused on this huge fireball that was getting bigger and bigger, watching it go from the dim 6th level to the 5th level of the Soul Tower, and then fall down with the golden bead. Above the 6th level of the Soul Tower, almost everyone was chasing down. At this time, word had spread, and someone recognized those lines, which were the flame golden pearls. The special changes of the flame golden pearl, coupled with the fact that a long time has passed now, they have lost their patience. It is very likely that it will be the end of the war. Everyone can feel this keenly. The opportunity is here. In front of them, everyone went a little crazy and burst out with their last strength. Of course, closely behind the flame golden pearl were Wu Yu and a group of top masters at the 8th level of the Wendao realm. They were still the fastest, and they were also the fastest to discover the flame golden pearl, so they could barely do it now. Hanging in the back, no one wants to be left behind at this time. Wu Yu. What a pity. I gave you 3 days, but you couldn't get the flame golden pearl? It seems that the ancient emperor was disappointed with you. You couldn't get it after they were all given to you, haha, I'm laughing so hard yeah, suddenly someone was laughing at him from behind. When he looked back, it was the Dark Prince. He actually thought that the ancient emperor sent me the flame gold pearl before. Wu Yu couldn't laugh or cry. At that time, he was the shrewdest, and he saw the flame gold pearl mixed among the gods of all things. He actually thought that the ancient emperor was controlling. It's such a pity, but now it's a fair competition. Let's see who can have the last laugh. The young emperor of the Sky Demon Empire also pursued them fiercely. Judging from their expressions, they probably all thought that they had picked it up for 3 days in vain. They thought that they were controlling the flame golden pearl during those 3 days, but they failed in the end. Judging from the faces of Eudaisy and others, they seemed to be a little relieved. It was obvious that they might have gone through a very sad process, but now it seemed that the opportunity had come again, so they were working extra hard, judging from their burning eyes. Look, they are absolutely determined to win the flame golden pearl. At this time, they had all reached the 5th level of the Soul Tower. The world was not so hot because of Wu Yu, but the appearance of the flame gold bead almost restored the place to its original level, which definitely made people complain. It was easy for them to see this thing that was comparable to the sun. Yes, at this time, the flaming gold bead was already quite large and very conspicuous. Wu Yu chased behind it, feeling like the sun was falling. Of course, the sun is not an entity, and this flame gold bead is still as if it were made of gold, but there are a lot of flames coming out of the surface. Boom boom boom. Now the sun is falling. When it sets, it even makes a huge roaring sound. Now everyone here knows the news about the flame golden pearl. In this case, no matter how weak it is, they will chase down and touch it. Luck. At this time, Wu Yu could actually use the somersault cloud to intercept the golden pearl in front, but he didn't want to do so. On the one hand, the golden pearl now was too violent. Even if he had the fusion tower in his hand, he probably wouldn't be able to do so. Method, secondly, the dozen or so 8th level Wendeo realms are following behind. If I become the leader at this time, I will definitely be besieged by them. If they attack me at the same time, they will definitely be attacked. It disappeared into ashes. This is the time when everyone is most likely to riot. Since I missed the best opportunity, I'd better wait and see what happens. Who knows what this flame gold pearl will turn into in the end. After Wu Yu came up with this idea, he gradually faded out of the most conspicuous position and let others catch up in front. He hung far behind to let others forget about him. He knew very well that if he didn't calm down at this time, he might become cannon fodder. The changes in the flame gold pearl not only made the ancient soul tower hot, but also made the outsiders a little impatient. The strong men opened their eyes wide and watched carefully. They seemed a little nervous at this time, so even Huangzun did not speak and watched quietly. Everyone held their breath and watched the flame gold pearl from the 8th floor at the top, all the way down. At this time, it has reached the 2nd floor. This chapter is not finished yet. Please click on the next page to continue reading the exciting content. Maybe, it is going down to the 1st floor. Wu Yu also caught up to the 2nd floor. His devouring heaven body has now caught up to the 3rd floor and is still going down. When it came to the 2nd level of the volcanic lava world, the flame gold pearl was still going down, but it was completely different from the 8th level. The cultivators standing on the 2nd level of the Soul Tower suddenly saw a huge sun falling into the sky. The sun rushed out of the electric grid, just like the sun floating in the sea, directly occupying half of the sky, and then fell. During that process, some people were not in a hurry to avoid it and were burned to ashes by the nearby flames. Others fled with ghosts and wolves howling. There is no doubt that the first level of the Soul Tower is the place with the most people, and there are still many Yuan-Shen realms staying here, and they can't go to the second level. Now looking at the trend of the Flame Gold Pearl, it is obviously going to go down to the first level, and it seems that no one can stop it. It seems that more than a dozen of Emperor Yu and his son seem to be watching the changes. In fact, some people rushed up to intercept it during this process, and there was even a 7th level existence in the realm of asking questions, but they all paid a price, even their lives. The current Flame Gold Pearl can only be said to be too terrible. Finally, as Wu Yu expected, the Flame Gold Pearl sank to the first level and came to the huge yellow sand world. This seemed to be the largest world, with huge gravel everywhere. When Wu Yu returned here, the yellow sand and the golden gravel here were no longer a threat to him. The Flame Gold Pearl, after floating in this yellow sand world and turning into a hot golden fireball, finally stopped its downward momentum and floated in the air, with a blazing fire burning on it. Compared with him, except for the demons, the cultivators must be very small. Then many people chased down, but did not act rashly. The young people who stayed in the first level of the Soul Tower were basically stunned when they saw this behemoth. Some people went forward, but before they could pass the exam, they were swept by the wind of the raging fire and turned into ashes directly. What is this? I don't know. Look, there are many people coming down from above. Could this be the Flame Gold Pearl? But how did the Flame Gold Pearl become so big? I don't know. What's going on? Confused eyes appeared in the eyes of countless people. Wu Yu also came down, but he did not act rashly. Instead, he separated from Emperor Yu and the others and went to the other side of the Flame Gold Pearl. Those who dared to take action for the time being were desperate. Now everyone was watching. The people chasing from above had appeared in the first level one after another. It was estimated that in a short time, the people in the entire ancient Soul Tower would probably return to the first level. Wu Yu looked around and saw quite a few people. Some demons had directly become their original bodies. The dozen or so people in the 8th level of the realm of Taoism, and a large number of people in the 6th level and above of the realm of Taoism, were basically scattered, but everyone was thinking about the Flame Gold Pearl. It's just that many people ended up miserably, so no top masters have taken action yet. Maybe everyone is waiting. Maybe after the heat and explosion, the Flame Gold Pearl will have other changes. For example, cooling down. So, people like Emperor Xiao and his friends might also be suppressing their inner impulses, waiting excitedly and nervously. Wu Yu was calmer in his heart, because he had been so close to the Yanhuang Gold Pearl, but he had never succeeded. When the Yanhuang Gold Pearl was the most terrifying, he didn't think he could succeed by chance in front of so many people. In fact, the estimation of Emperor Yu and his friends was correct. Not long after the Yanhuang Gold Pearl came down, there was a change. The huge golden fireball, the golden part of which was actually twisted, gradually changed and twisted from a golden fireball, and actually showed the outline of a person. This change was not fast. As time passed, people finally saw in their suffocation that the final form of its change was a Yanhuang ancient emperor composed entirely of a golden body. The most obvious thing was that one eye was a golden flame, and the other eye was a dark blue moon. This golden giant, covered in golden armor, even his flesh and blood were golden. He held two weapons in his hands, stood upright, and looked at the mortals who were like ants. At this time, people were really suffocating. Heaven Swallowing Record. Author, Feng Qing Yang. Chapter 1125. Although the huge golden giant looks like an ancient emperor, it is definitely not the ancient emperor himself. According to Wu Yu, this is naturally not a god of all things, but another kind of thing that he is quite familiar with. That is, a puppet. Yes, this golden giant is very similar to the Black Phoenix, and both are made of metal treasures as the main material. It can be basically confirmed that it is a puppet. But there is no doubt that from the terrifying pressure brought by the golden giant at this time, this golden giant must be much stronger than the Black Phoenix. In his hands, he controls two magic weapons. These magic weapons and his body are actually made of the same material, which can be said to be a part of his body. However, in the weapon part, there must be more magic arrays, and most of the attack magic arrays are also hit on these two weapons, and even separated separately. These two weapons should be like heavenly spiritual instruments. The weapon in his right hand is a golden giant sword, which is burning with surging golden flames at this time. Inside the sword body, it seems that there are a large number of tiny flame balls rolling, like a galaxy. The weapon on the left hand is like a crescent moon, with a dark blue color and emitting a crystal light. It looks beautiful, but in fact, the blade is extremely sharp. The lethality of this blue scimitar is definitely not worse than that of the flaming giant sword, and it is even more breathtaking. A golden giant who stands tall and upright appeared in the first level of the Soul Tower, holding a pair of huge weapons, stepping on the yellow sand, and countless gravel and rocks collided with it and turned into powder. In most places in the first level of the Tao, the existence of this golden giant can be seen when you look up. For the first level of the Soul Tower, which has been silent for a long time, this sudden bustle stunned the tens of thousands of people gathered here. Madness, restlessness, fear, all of these are staged here, including the many people who have been chasing down from above. Everyone gathered around this golden giant. Some were brave and kept approaching, while others were timid but dared to hide in the distance to watch the battle. Among them, a large number of people clearly saw that this golden giant was transformed from a huge flaming gold bead. This alone is enough to make people crazy. Wu Yu, Emperor Yu, and a group of people also clearly saw the changes of the flame gold pearl. At this moment, with their determination, they certainly would not act rashly. They knew that there was a fatal danger hidden in this change. It turned into a puppet. On the side of the devouring heaven body, Emperor Yu's face changed again and again. Now he was nervous, obsessed, and impatient. He looked at Wu Yu's devouring heaven body for help and asked, "Are there any strategies? What should we do now? Can we get the flame gold pearl by killing it?" "Emperor, don't be impatient. No one knows what's going on now. Let's wait and see." Wu Yu was still calm in his heart. "Don't let others seize the opportunity," Emperor Yu murmured, his eyes fixed on the golden giant. "No one can seize the opportunity. Obviously, I encountered this flame gold pearl last time, but I didn't get it in the end. It's not that you can get it quickly." In fact, Wu Yu was also thinking, how can he succeed? Now that the Yanhuang golden pearl has changed, is it possible to defeat the golden giant as Emperor Yu said, which is equivalent to getting it? This cannot be confirmed, so he saw Emperor Yu and others, who were actually hesitant. "Don't get close if you don't want to die. We don't dare to get close. Are you looking for death?" At this time, Emperor Yu shouted loudly. It turned out that some Yanhuang people, regardless of their strength, even those who were not at the Yuanshen realm, were closer to the golden giant than Emperor Yu and others. At this time, the golden giant had just completed the body transformation and seemed a little confused, but was already scanning all the people around. In his eyes, Wu Yu saw murderous intent. However, although Emperor Yu ordered, there were still people who didn't know what was good for them. Most of them were foreigners who didn't obey the Yanhuang people, ghost cultivators, or sea demons, etc., who still wanted to seize the initiative. Maybe they were also wondering whether whoever defeated the golden giant would get the Yanhuang golden pearl. This was the only chance for many people. In the past, the Yanhuang golden pearl was elusive, and they were far from qualified to get close. Once there is a rush, there will definitely be a rush. Even a calm person would not be able to help himself when seeing more than 1,000 people rushing towards the flame gold pearl. When his head got a little heated, He also rushed up. Wu Yu saw it. In a blink of an eye, thousands of people surrounded the golden giant like ants, and many people were even closer than Wu Yu and his team. Wu Yu could only use one word to describe this scene, that is, moths to a flame. As expected, with his mastery and understanding of puppets, this golden giant might need to reach the 9th level of the realm of Taoism to be defeated. At this moment, in fact, many attacks from cultivators and demons fell on the golden giant, and some demons even turned into their original bodies directly, intending to compete with this golden giant. Dang dang dang. For a time, the golden giant seemed to be swallowed up by countless magical arts and Taoist instruments. Buzz. Then, in an instant, golden light suddenly shone, blue light was blinding, countless blades and swords flashed. In the blink of an eye, there were screams, and then the monks and demons who were rushing forward just now were seen fleeing in panic. They ran away at a decent speed. Fortunately, many people had not had time to get close. Those who were closest before were probably demons. At this time, screams came from around the golden giant. Wu Yu took a look with his fiery eyes. According to his estimation, in fact, hundreds of people had died tragically on the spot at that moment, and the golden giant was almost unscathed after receiving so many attacks. This chapter is not over, please click on the next page to continue reading. If the remaining ones were not far away or escaped quickly, more people would have died. Now people and demons dispersed like swarms. In the blink of an eye, the golden giant seemed like a nightmare. In fact, people who are a little smarter don't follow the crowd so much. When they see that even Emperor Yu and his group are not making any moves, they shouldn't rush forward in a hurry. The defense of this golden giant is terrifying. Wu Yu was very emotional. He could see quite clearly that just now there were a few people in the crowd who were at the 5th level or above of the realm of inquiry. They also hit the golden giant. With the attack array of their spiritual tools, they only can leave a little dust on the golden giant. The most frightening thing is that in the blink of an eye, these small marks disappeared, indicating that the body of this golden giant can also repair itself. This is simply an indestructible body. When the golden giant's flaming sword swept across, many demons and ascetics were reduced to ashes. Now people finally calmed down. Those who knew that their strength was not enough were still wise and did not get carried away. The area around the golden giant's body was finally cleared. Many people were frightened and hid in the distance. For them, death was just a matter of seconds. In the entire first level of the Soul Tower, more and more people gathered around here, and now they all looked at the golden giant with wide eyes, unable to calm down. In fact, those who were as alarmed as them were the Feng Guo Tianyuntai outside. When the huge fireball landed on the first level, people discovered that the 9 mirrors quickly came together and became one large mirror. Even the 9th mirror lit up. The large mirror that appeared completely focused on the big fireball, and then people clearly saw it transform into the appearance of the ancient Emperor Yanhuang. It should be a kind of puppet. The flame golden pearl seems to have undergone some changes, or it has been triggered. It is now very dangerous, but this may be the only chance to get it. Is the ancient emperor trying to test their true fighting ability? And in the middle of a melee? In this case, those who can finally obtain the flame golden pearl in such a chaotic environment must be really special. This huge scene suffocated many forces participating in the competition, especially when they saw top beings such as Xianzhenzi, Lanqi Liu Meng, Dark Prince, Yin Yang Fish, Young Emperor and Spirit Realm Ape appearing in the mirror among. Even in this, Huang Zun saw Nangong Wei. Her eyes were very vicious. She immediately saw that the 9-headed Demon King was not beside Nangong Wei. She remembered that before entering, she had told her that the 9-headed Demon King would never can't leave Nangong Wei. This made her frown. Without the 9-headed Demon King, it would be extremely difficult and almost impossible for Nangong Wei to achieve something in this chaos. This made Lord Huang look a little gloomy. In fact, most of the others were also very nervous, even Emperor Minghai. He also saw Princess Yuking. Princess Yuking still stayed with King Yueying. The loss for their group was not great. But the hundreds of corpses just now really shocked many people, and there were many powerful young people among them. If they hadn't seen it very clearly and couldn't be sure, many people would be even more panicked now. Have you seen Wu Yu? It's already here, maybe there is still some hope for him. Among the dragons, there was an elder who had been looking for him for a long time. Luo Bin's eyes are sharp. Her long hair was flowing, and she had a rare aura of indifference and calmness all over her body. She said unhurriedly, I didn't see it, but he must be nearby. He is nearby but does not appear in a conspicuous place. This is a smart choice in itself. The elders looked at each other in confusion and didn't say much. Out of Luo Bin's sight, they shook their heads slightly, which seemed to mean that Luo Bin's confidence in Wu Yu was so great that they all felt that she was a little irrational and a bit irrational. Ridiculous. But they didn't say much. They didn't want to influence her too much. After all, she was the Dragon Lord of the Four Seas. They just wanted to let time pass. When Wu Yu failed and returned, Luo Bin would naturally be disappointed. For the chapter Perfect Anti-Theft, please use the search engine to search for keywords and you can read various novels. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Heaven Swallowing Record. Author, Fengqing Yang. Chapter 1126. No one can predict what will happen next in this ancient soul tower. However, under such circumstances, Emperor Xiao also spoke, and his attitude was rather arrogant. He said, listen to me, the combat power of this puppet has at least reached the 9th level of the realm of Taoism. There are very few people in the world of Yanfu who can deal with it alone. This is my father's puppet. If you still don't want to die, just rush forward. People die for money, and birds die for food. If you all die here, it's not our Yanhuang clan's fault. It's all your fault. Such words really scared many people. But, people came in just for the Yanhuang golden pearl. No matter how odd they were, they couldn't stay away from here completely. Everyone would have a fluke mentality. What if luck fell on their heads? Of course, they all stayed at what they thought was a safe distance, concentrating their attention and taking the opportunity to look for opportunities. Anyone would think, let the strongest group rush to the front, and when they both suffered losses, maybe we will have a chance. This is almost the most mainstream idea now. Even Wu Yu thinks so. He decided not to confront the golden giant head-on for the time being. However, Le Diza was still a little anxious. Don't you try it first? If more than a dozen of them suddenly attack together, maybe they can suppress this puppet, and then someone will suddenly succeed. It's not that easy. Wu Yu at least wants to compete with this golden giant at their level. At this time, a large number of strong men came up, many of whom were above the 6th level of the realm of Taoism. They ambushed behind Xiao Daizi and his men, staring at them, looking for opportunities. From their eyes, it was useless for anyone to ask them to leave. In fact, Xiao Daizi hadn't finished speaking for a long time, and someone had already stepped forward to perform. His attitude was very cautious, and he slowly circled behind the golden giant. At this time, the golden beast had experienced a period of confusion, and it can be seen that his eyes are now very bright. Roar! Suddenly, the golden giant let out a heavy roar with a metallic friction, and the puppet material carved into armor on his body made a ding-dong sound. Now he was like a heavenly soldier, looking down on the earth. At this sudden moment, before everyone else made a move, he made a move first. And when he appeared, his target was directly a group of people including Emperor Yu. Now he knew who was the strong one here, and this was his target. Wu Yu's body was much more flexible, so at this time he asked Emperor Yu and others to retreat. He alone used the law of heaven and earth to change his body to the smallest, and then instantly reached a distance. Among the strong men before, some retreated while making moves, obviously to test the golden giant. Perhaps they also thought that if they defeated the golden giant, they would probably get the Yanhuang gold pearl on the spot. Perhaps, this is what the ancient emperor meant by really getting the Yanhuang gold pearl. Therefore, there are still quite a few people who really want to take action. Wu Yu glanced and found that the son of Emperor Yu, the daughter of Emperor 11, the swordsman of Qingfeng, Huangguzi, the Dark Prince, the spiritual ape, etc. have already taken action. Others, seeing someone taking action, of course they dare not leave too far. Although they did not join the battle, they were actually nearby and ready at any time. The only reason for not taking action was that they bet that the golden giant would be difficult to take down, so they wanted to let others spend some effort first and not take action themselves. This is also quite smart, but this requires patience. After all, who knows if the golden giant will be very fragile and suddenly killed. Wu Yu has enough speculation about the ancient emperor. At least he now believes that it takes a considerable person to deal with this golden giant. The person who can finally get the Yanhuang gold pearl must have quite extraordinary qualities. Among so many people present, he has not seen such a person yet, so he is really not anxious at all, at least much more relaxed than Emperor Yu. Although Emperor Yu was far away, he looked like he was still eager for Wu Yu to fight right away. Why hasn't Wu Yu made a move yet? Chu Fengjia was also anxious. Bailey Xuanhuan was also sweating coldly, saying, "If I don't make a move now, I'm afraid I won't have a chance. There are so many strong men around. This is related to the future Emperor Yanhuang. Doesn't Wu Yu realize its importance?" Chu Fengjia murmured. "Don't talk nonsense here, okay? If you have the guts, go up yourself. Who doesn't know the importance? He must know better than you how to snatch the treasure with limited strength. Besides, do you really think the Yanhuang gold pearl is so easy to get?" Yezixi just hated them. When she heard what they said, she got angry. "Meow," Lazy Cat protested fiercely. "Don't be so irritable, we are all family, be more friendly, haha, it is said that girls with bad tempers tend to have flat chests." Nanshan Wanjia was probably the only one who could still joke in this tense atmosphere. Wu Yu's heaven-devouring body was originally outside, and he wanted to try to see if there was any chance, but found that the main body was enough. At this time, he returned to the body of the Black Phoenix. Seeing that they were still a little bit tense, he could of course guess the reason, so he said to Le Dizi, "Be patient, in my opinion, it won't be so easy to see the final result. His main energy is still on the main body. Maybe it's intuition, I always feel that many things that have been accumulated in the past are about to explode, so there is a feeling of impending storm." At this time, he was watching as some top warriors, including several 6th-level warriors, joined in the fierce battle with the golden giant. To be honest, the golden giant was not very fast and moved a little slowly, just like an aging machine, but its strength was its huge lethality, and its body was really strong to an unimaginable degree. This chapter is not yet finished, please click on the next page to continue reading the exciting content. Even the 8th-level Dark Prince, when he smashed the dark stone pillar on his body, could only produce a dent, and it was not very big, and the dent soon bulged up and became smooth and translucent, as if it had never been attacked. Others, such as Emperor Yu, Emperor Xiao, Lan Qi Liameng, Xianjinzi, Qingfeng Swordsman, Mu Yongzi, Shueqingyan, etc., all made similar moves. The most severe attacks were to use sharp swords and other spiritual instruments to tear wounds on the body, which might be deep enough to see the bones. However, there were no bones in the golden giant, only solid metal treasure materials, and the magic array was not damaged at all. Moreover, such torn wounds were the easiest to recover, almost within 10 breaths. When the wounds were attached together, they would quickly turn into golden liquid and fuse together, and then quickly cool down and become solid. At this time, it was basically restored to its original state. From this short period of time, if they wanted to pose a fatal threat to the golden giant, they could only do so if all of them worked together and attacked the same place, such as the head. However, it was obvious that no one would do this, because when they were fighting, killing the golden giant was not important. What was important was not to let others snatch the Yanhuang gold pearl. If they let others snatch the Yanhuang gold pearl, they would rather let the golden giant live and no one would snatch it. This is also the reason why Wu Yu estimated that they would not solve the golden giant too quickly. Now they are in a stalemate with the puppet. Some people who are at the 6th level of the realm of Taoism will die easily. Only those who are at the 7th level of Taoism can barely mix in and fight a few times. The Shadow King tried it, but he withdrew within 10 breaths because he knew that he would lose his life if he could not hold on for much longer. Although Xiao Daisy and the others seemed to be fighting fiercely, they were actually restricting each other most of the time and had to save some strength. If they were exhausted, others might seize such an opportunity. After all, no one knew how to get the Yanhuang gold pearl. If it was just a defeat, it would be easy, but if there was still a dispute after the defeat, many people would miscalculate. Wu Yu has not made a move yet. According to his intuition, it is not the right time yet. In fact, there are other strong men who have not made a move, such as the daughter of the Emperor 11. After fighting for a while, she retreated, but this actually requires sufficient concentration, and it is not necessarily a good thing. If he suddenly retreats, the Yanhuang gold pearl will be robbed, which will be funny. In fact, Wu Yu was also a little attracted by the fighting style of the golden giant. In fact, this puppet seemed to have no attack array. His attack method was very similar to the warriors Wu Yu knew before, only close combat. Although he was not fast, he was actually flexible and not particularly bulky. Although his body was huge, he was quite good at wielding the sword and scimitar. Many of its fighting moves are actually simple martial arts moves, but because of its majestic power, it becomes very different. For example, those who are at the 8th level of the realm of Taoism have to hide far away after being killed by it. Although no one is seriously injured for the time being, once they are hit, they may be seriously injured. Sometimes it is not head-on, it is quite difficult. During the battle, Emperor Yu, Xianjinzi, and others were injured to a certain extent and had to retreat outside to rest. Why does such a battle make me feel more like the Tao? The reason why Wu Yu was immersed in it and forgot about the Yanhuang gold pearl for a short time was because of the golden giant's actions. He flipped up and down, with a sword and a knife in his hand. He drew the sword and killed the knife in one go. Simple movements were transformed into magic by it, but it must be said that it is just a puppet. Why can it have such a mysterious feeling? And the attacks of other powerful people at the 8th level of the realm of Taoism are indeed very complicated, all of which are magic arrays, magical powers and Taoist arts. That is their complicated Tao, which cannot be seen through. This simple truth, however, fascinated Wu Yu a little bit. Perfect Anti-Theft Chapter. Please use the search engine to search for keywords, and you can read all kinds of novels. Heaven Swallowing Record. Author, Fengqing Yang. Chapter 1127. It has to be said that the more Wu Yu looked at it, the more he discovered that the puppet's movements and fighting methods were magical. Every move he made was magical. His current state is at the 10th level of the Yuan Shen state, which is really not that high. Taiwan Novel Network Rightward Arrow. Perhaps because of this, he found that people like Emperor Yu and others who were at the 8th level of the realm were basically not affected at all. Looking at other people, they didn't seem to think there was anything mysterious about this golden giant. What they probably saw was that the puppet was forcibly suppressed by its terrifying power, the specialness of its two weapons, and its invincible body. All opponents. Its rough and direct movements certainly have no beauty at all. Everyone's Tao is different. It's normal for them to gain nothing because of this. For the time being, he could see that they couldn't deal with the golden giant at all, and even people were trying to contain each other. For the time being, everyone wanted to retain some of their own strength, so they didn't try their best. People all relied on Bina Gold. If the giant is more flexible, he will fight back. Occasionally, he will go up and try to deliver a fatal blow, but basically he will not succeed, and sometimes he will be restrained by others. As a result, the battlefield turned into a golden giant chasing the monks and demons. They were fighting and retreating. However, the monks or demons far behind them quickly ran away as soon as they saw that the golden giant was coming in this direction. The battle with this behemoth was not as exciting as people imagined, but it still made people remember it. Anyway, no one has taken their eyes off this golden giant so far. Going to the back, the golden giant was agitated but failed to kill many people and seemed a little angry. For example, the blue scimitar in his hand was thrown out. The scimitar flew out with terrifying speed. At this time, a demon was attacking and was cut in half on the spot. It turned into countless ice crystals and scattered around the world. He was dying, and it turned out to be the Antarctic ice beast in the Antarctic vortex, a being at the 7th level of the Wenzo realm. The blue scimitar was still moving forward rapidly. Its path was erratic and its lethality was astonishing. Many people were still unable to dodge and were killed on the spot, including the Yanhuang tribe and even the sons and daughters of the emperor who still refused to say goodbye. For sure. This time, the onlookers were so scared that most of them had to hide further. Until he dodges out of the attack range of the golden giant. When the golden giant threw out the scimitar, Emperor Yu and his group all pounced on the golden giant. They took the opportunity to bombard the golden giant with all kinds of heavenly spiritual tools and Taoist magical powers. The power swallowed up the golden giant, but Wu Yu took a look with his fiery eyes and realized that they might have almost succeeded. The golden giant turned into a pile of scrap metal under their siege, but it soon swelled up. This time he was completely recovered within 5 breaths of time. Although his body looked a lot dirty, Wu Yu was indeed envious of his immortality. After being attacked once, he became even more angry. After the scimitar returned to his hand, his beheadings became even more ferocious. The movement was as fast as a phantom. Maybe everyone felt apprehensive and fearful of its attack, and frowned deeply, but Wu Yu watched it with gusto, and even immersed himself in it. There was a vague feeling that he was listening to the ancient emperor's sermon. Feel. That time it was listening, but this time it was seeing. He could see that the reason why the power of this golden giant was so amazing was actually because his martial arts movements contained a way of returning to nature. This way and Wu Yu is very similar, with a lot of room for reference. It is said that those who ask are able to skillfully transform the Tao they understand into every change in daily life, even in the blink of an eye, thinking. The battle was fierce, but he became an appreciator, appreciating the traces of Tao hidden in the body of a golden giant. The feeling of martial arts was too familiar. He also grew up in a world without immortals. So he knows martial arts better than anyone else. In fact, for a long time, he completely forgot about martial arts, but now he has a feeling of memories, as if he has returned to the past. The immortal way and the martial arts way both seem to be Dao. The immortal Dao is unfathomable, while the martial Dao returns to its original nature. Although there are large blanks, the close combat, the transformation of shapes, and the fight between the light and shadow of swords seems to be a kind of Dao. Kill. Drawing out the sword, sweeping, 1 point, 1 slash, all have a touch of beauty. If God helps, the mysterious place in it is not right at all when going up, and is not right at all when going down. It happens to be in that position, and it flows naturally, so wonderful that it makes people marvel. Emperor Yu was anxious, watching others fighting for it, but Wu Yu was as calm as water, sitting cross-legged on a rock, eyes burning with fire, watching every tiny movement of the golden giant. To be honest, the reason why he is so powerful has a lot to do with the mystery of his changes. Without this mystery, maybe it is just scrap metal and cannot play a top role at all. Therefore, in this battle, the golden giant seemed to have endless strength, and he became more and more threatening to Emperor Yu and others. Maybe they were forced. After being unable to do anything for a long time, they would also lose some patience. Everyone was a little more united. They probably discussed with each other and worked together to kill the golden giant first, and then look at the rest. Even so, Emperor Yu kept pacing, but Wu Yu was still unhurried and immersed in the world of Tao seriously. What is the Tao? Under all the mysterious indoctrination, he couldn't help but ask such a question, which was also a natural change. This chapter is not over yet, please click the next page to continue reading. This question. At first, he was a little confused. He knew that this belonged to him, and no one else could know it. He continued to watch the battle of the golden giant, and was also thinking about his own way, and then constantly recalled everything he had realized before. Many changes in mentality, as well as the Monkey King, kept emerging in his mind. Everything seemed to surge into his mind. Whenever he fell into a stagnant state, he didn't expect that the smooth movements of the golden giant could help him sort out some chaotic thoughts, so that those extremely messy and numerous ways brought by the realization converge to the same place. What is Tao? Wu Yu gradually felt that it was indescribable, because it was a feeling, from illusion to gaze, like a brand on the soul. It was this brand that made his soul so different and elevated to a new realm. This was not only a change in the body, but also his soul of the body of swallowing the sky, which was like a brand, producing a change that Wu Yu could not perceive for the time being. The brand, in fact, could not be seen or touched, but it made Wu Yu feel that it did exist. Because of this brand, he seemed to have a direction. The realm of the three disasters, asking the way, is a process of constantly asking questions, until he finally became an immortal. Maybe he could ask clearly, and now what was formed in his soul power was a prototype of asking. Maybe now, Wu Yu still didn't know what his Tao was, and he was also exploring, but he established the direction of this Tao. Under the guidance of the golden giant, he had embarked on the same road as Yezixi and the others. He also began to ask questions. Under the brand that gathered in the invisible, the soul became stronger, which meant that he reached the first level of the asking the way. Both his body and soul could become stronger. Moreover, after reaching a new realm, it means that Wu Yu can finally learn a new art of transformation, the art of transformation after the art of communicating with the spirits. In fact, the art of communicating with the spirits has been quite helpful for him to understand the array. His rapid grasp of the heavenly spiritual instruments before also had a huge effect on the art of communicating with the spirits. The effects of the art of walking and the art of violence are even more needless to say. It is a little regrettable that the limitation of the art of immobilization is too low. What he lacks now is the divine pill of asking the way. He can finally use the divine pill of asking the way, but in fact, there is still a lot of medicinal power of the divine pill left in his body, which can actually be used at this time, making him feel like asking the way. In fact, Wu Yu never thought that he would enter the realm of asking the way, which he thought would be very difficult, before the end of the ancient soul tower. Because he was improving too fast before, he thought that the next improvement would take a long time to adjust and settle, but this success came suddenly and was perfect, which was almost easy. He then did not need to worry anymore, and directly used a large number of Dao Dao Shendan to continue to improve his purple mansion energy. At this time, his Dapan Tianxian technique continued to forge this purple mansion energy. In fact, although it was the first level, the degree of his purple mansion energy was not inferior to the fifth level of Dao Dao realm. The huge changes in his Vajrabuddha body and the power of the law of heaven and earth made him think that he could compete with the 8th level of Deo realm. The unexpected promotion undoubtedly greatly increased Wu Yu's hope of success. He felt that it seemed that the Yanhuang gold pearl was about to be delivered to him. 3 chapters today. Let me tell you something. Recently, the website has launched a new payment standard. After May, books listed as fine books, Tun Tianji is a fine book, can no longer be read on a monthly basis. It seems that the subscription will also change from 3 cents to 5 cents. Everyone should understand that in fact, other peers have already changed to 5 cents. 3 cents and 5 cents are actually very low. Reading books every month is only a few dollars. The website has built such a large company, and everyone is very hard. Editors often work overtime until late at night. The profit of online writing is very thin. It is really not easy. The madman's manuscript fee is fixed, but I still hope everyone can understand. However, the madman also specifically found out that it seems that the website has also withdrawn from an activity called Before May, everyone can open a beginner membership. Users who open it now, as long as it is still valid, can continue to read all the books on the entire site for free as old users, and will not be affected by the new payment standard. That is, the longer you open it now, the longer you will enjoy the privilege in the future. You can also get a wandering logo and enjoy the original subscription price discount within 1 year. I am not particularly clear about the specific details. Please take a look at the announcement of the website when you have time. The website announcement shall prevail. Sorry for bothering everyone. There will be more updates in the future, and even an explosion. Perfect anti-theft chapter. Please use the search engine to search for keywords. Various novels are available for you to watch. Heaven Swallowing Record. Author, Fengqing Yang. Chapter 1128. The realm of Taoism. I originally thought it was illusory, but I didn't expect to set foot in it just like that. This really needs to be thanked to the Golden Giant, or the ancient Emperor Yanhuang. Of course, Wu Yu can reach the step, which is a natural result. When he successfully reached a new level and realm, looking at the battlefield again, it was already in a white-hot stage. The cultivators and demons could not attack for a long time, and there were always people who were anxious. The 6th and 7th levels of Taoism, who had withdrawn from the battlefield before, also began to move around the periphery, attacking from time to time, and even other weaker ones were eyeing and getting closer. Maybe they saw that under the siege and oppression of many strong men, the Golden Giant might not be able to hold on for long. The more this happened, the more excited and nervous people became. Even the core group of strong men were a little anxious at this time. Everyone was madly attacking the Golden Giant, leaving it completely powerless to fight back. If they hadn't restricted each other, or even had conflicts and fought each other, I'm afraid the pressure faced by the Golden Giant would be even greater. Wu Yu, what's going on? Why don't you make a move? I'm afraid the outcome will be decided soon. Faced with such a treasure, no one could remain calm, and Emperor Yu asked a few more questions. This statement already showed his uneasiness. In fact, the Golden Giant was more tenacious than everyone imagined. They all thought that they could almost solve it. Maybe it was because of the mutual restraint that consumed a lot of energy. At least now, although the Golden Giant was covered with scars, he was actually recovering. Still, don't worry, Wu Yu saw it more clearly with his fiery eyes, because those people restrained each other, and now the Golden Giant was not injured at all. Even if it was beaten into a pile of rotten iron, as long as the fire stopped for a while, it would immediately swell up quickly and restore the appearance of the giant, and continue to fight. Even at this time, his occasional sudden counterattack could make Emperor Yu and his group suffer. Emperor Yu was about to despair. Wu Yu's determination made him feel uncomfortable. He was anxious but had no way to do anything. After all, he couldn't do it himself. Wu Yu was his only weapon. Even Nanshan Wanjiao and Yezixi obeyed Wu Yu. Perhaps he could feel that the power and superior subordinate relationship between the two of them was no longer particularly obvious. He seemed to have never been able to order Wu Yu. Maybe he could think of the story of important ministers who were powerful in the court, but this kind of thing had never happened in Yanhuang, because the emperors of Yanhuang were all ancient emperors. Wu Yu did not attack this time, but retreated back into the body of the Black Phoenix. Emperor Yu and others looked at him in astonishment, not knowing what he was going to do. Who knew that Wu Yu and the body of the devouring heaven suddenly disappeared here? His two bodies had disappeared at the same time before, and Emperor Yu didn't know where Wu Yu went. In fact, Wu Yu had arrived in the floating life tower, and the floating life tower was naturally temporarily hidden by Nanshan Wanjiao. Where did he go? Emperor Yu asked. Nanshan Wanjiao smiled and said, "Don't worry, Emperor, he knows his limits. If we go up now, with our current capital, we can't beat that group of people. It will only increase our consumption. It's better to wait for the best opportunity to kill them when we are at our strongest." Okay, Emperor Yu shook his head. In fact, he couldn't say anything else, because he knew very well that Wu Yu would never obey his wishes, and Nanshan Wanjiao was right. It was impossible to beat that group of people now. They were all at the 8th level of the realm of Taoism, close to becoming immortals. Wu Yu and the body of Tiantun came to the floating life tower. Of course, they wanted to maximize their strength and capital within a limited time. So, they wanted to challenge the existence that was stronger than the Black Phoenix, a brand new puppet. Now Wu Yu's realm has been upgraded to the 1st level of the realm of Taoism. Under his challenge, 9 magic arrays appeared at the same time. He wanted to challenge the puppet in the black magic array. The current position of the Black Phoenix should be the position of the purple magic array. The new puppet is 1 level stronger than the Black Phoenix. The realm of asking for the truth is a huge leap. In terms of the purple palace energy alone, it has been improved a lot, much more than the improvement of the previous realm. After possessing the Vajrabuddha body of the great Sun Tathagata, such an improvement in the purple palace energy has brought a huge improvement to its body. At least now, he himself does not know what level it will be if he fully exerts his combat power. This requires this new puppet to help Wu Yu verify. Therefore, he resolutely chose that when everyone outside was racing against time and fighting with the golden giant, he suppressed his inner impulse with amazing concentration and focused his attention completely on this new puppet. Almost no one in the entire ancient Soul Tower could have such concentration as him. Of course, Nanshan Wanjiao outside would tell him the situation outside at any time. Once it was true that the golden giant showed signs of not being able to hold on, Wu Yu could stop at any time and join the final fight. As for now, Wu Yu deeply believed that whether he went up or not would not change anything at all. He might even get caught in their entanglement. Those who had conflicts in the past even broke out in this fight, for example, the young emperor of the heavenly demon empire, the sky-splitting cloud beast, and the spirit realm monkey of the million demon mountain, and Lan Chi Lai Ameng of the Izumo kingdom and the dark prince of motion. They all had conflicts with each other, and would become angry with each other if they were slightly affected. Under such circumstances, Wu Yu concentrated on the floating life tower. When he chose to challenge the puppet of the 8th magic circle, the other magic circles dimmed. When the light of the black magic circle reached its strongest point, it suddenly dissipated. During this process, the puppet made a dull, heavy, majestic, and domineering roar. This was very different from the sharp cry of the Black Phoenix. It was not sharp, but it was like a heavy punch, hitting Wu Yu's body, bringing a terrifying impact. This chapter is not over yet, please click on the next page to continue reading. Wu Yu saw the appearance of the puppet clearly. Wu Yu was very familiar with the appearance of the puppet. To be honest, he was also familiar with the Black Phoenix last time he saw it, because Nangongwei was the immortal phoenix, and her appearance was very similar to the Black Phoenix. The reason why he was familiar this time was because of the Kylan battle halberd Emperor Lin. That's right, the puppet in front of him is actually a huge unicorn, but it also has a metal body, and the whole body is silver, and the silver forms a light, which is a bit dazzling, making the silver unicorn look more majestic. Its body is a combination of a lion's head, deer horns, tiger eyes, elk body, dragon scales, and ox tail. Its body is like a musk deer, but its head is somewhat similar to that of a dragon. It is not as slender as the dragon head, but it is wider and more domineering. The silver metal treasures on its body are certainly not made of the same material as the Black Phoenix's body, but it is obviously more advanced. The magic array in its body is also more complicated. The phoenix is the king of flying birds, and this unicorn is the king of walking beasts. Although it is just a puppet, its charm and momentum are the same as those of a real unicorn fairy beast. Wu Yu also seems to be facing a real unicorn. Seeing the birth of this opponent, after understanding the avenue and reaching the realm of asking for the way, Wu Yu has a more fiery blood and spirit, and he is involved in this battle. He feels that he seems to be completely different. At this time, he quickly transformed his body into the golden fairy ape, and then used the law of heaven and earth to transform into a giant, barely able to compete with the silver Kylan in terms of form. With the emperor in his hand, he did have an aura of equal strength, especially after asking the question. The aura he showed in his every move was completely different. As for the body of the devouring heaven, he held the emperor's seal in one hand and the heavenly spirit Deo artifact, the divine gourd of all things, in the other. He has now completely mastered the divine gourd of all things. With these two heavenly spirit Deo artifacts, he can actually exert a superb combat power, especially since he is still hiding behind the meat shield of the main body, basically looking for attack opportunities in secret, which is hard to defend against. Moreover, with the divine gourd of all things, his attack methods will be more diverse. The main body and the body of the devouring heaven, one in front and one behind, confronted the silver Kylan. The silver Kylan was very direct. After it let out another earth-shaking roar, it rushed over with a bang. Even in the floating life tower, there was a feeling of earthquakes. Wu Yu's original body was ready to confront the silver unicorn head-on. Ultra Kirin 3 kills sky-splitting formation. He used the battle halberd Emperor Lin, which was itself a unicorn. The fight suddenly became a fight between 3 fire unicorns and 1 silver unicorn. Ultra Kirin 3 kills, 1 stab, 1 sweep, and 1 slash. And the silver unicorn, with its majestic body, looked no worse than the golden giant. Take my move, 9 heavens galaxy falling star formation. When Wu Yu made his move, the silver unicorn also made his move. In fact, the magic array on his body was no less than 800,000, and its value exceeded that of ordinary Tianling Dao tools. When those magic arrays were activated, under the precise operation of the magic arrays above 800,000, suddenly, a brilliant silver light burst out from his body. The silver light formed a huge beam of light, which seemed to be ejected from his mouth, rushing to the upper side of him, reaching the center between Wu Yu and him. Then at this moment, the silver light column suddenly exploded, and then changed rapidly, becoming a huge river. The river was like the Milky Way in the sky, with stars twinkling on it, vast and mighty, with countless stars, and each star seemed to have the power of explosion. Then in the next moment, those stars fell down like a waterfall, bombarding Wu Yu's head, as if to drown Wu Yu in these stars. This is the 9 sky Milky Way falling star formation. The stars formed a waterfall and bombarded the top of the head. It can be imagined that this power is indeed much stronger than that of the Black Phoenix. Wu Yu tried to get close with the Kirin 3 kills, but now it seems that he will be locked in place by the waterfall of stars. Perfect Anti-Theft Chapter. Please use the search engine to search for keywords. Various novels are available for you to watch. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Heaven Swallowing Record. Author, Fengqing Yang. Chapter 1129. Why did Wu Yu take the gourd of all things and not return it to the Dark Prince? That is because in the battle, the gourd of all things is indeed very useful, and it has endless changes, which is just right for Wu Yu. Taiwan Novel Network Rightward Arrow Digit G. For example, at this moment, when the Milky Way star waterfall bombarded down and landed on Wu Yu's head, behind Wu Yu, the sky-devouring body was actually also making a move. The gourd of all things in his hand instantly spewed out a large amount of thick smoke. The black smoke was like alive, changing instantly, rushing to the middle of Wu Yu and the Milky Way star waterfall. At this time, it instantly condensed and turned into a wall tilted to the left of Wu Yu. When the star slammed on the wall, it was a liquid after all. For a while, it rolled on the wall and fell to the left of Wu Yu's body along the tilted angle. Of course, this was only for a moment, and Wu Yu's body blocked the attack for a moment. The next moment, the wall was still smashed by the impact, but Wu Yu had already rushed out of that area. At this time, the somersault cloud had already merged into his body, and the third level of shape-shifting was like being integrated into his flesh and blood. His killing speed could be said to have increased several times in an instant. The silver unicorn failed to hit him, but instead let Wu Yu get close and directly poured the unicorn's 3-kill sky-breaking formation on the silver unicorn. One stab, one sweep, and one slash. The two hit continuously, first piercing a deep hole in the lower throat of the silver unicorn, and then sweeping across, almost cutting off its head. In the last slash, the fire unicorn rushed down, and under the rage, a big hole was opened on the head of the silver unicorn. Unfortunately, this silver unicorn is not made of flesh and blood. Even if it is injured by what looks like heavy damage, it has no reaction at all. After Wu Yu's brutal attack, it immediately reacted and continued to fight Wu Yu desperately. This silver unicorn has various means, and its large and small magic arrays are very powerful. Its body is also quite tough. Although it is not as strong as the golden giant, it is also extremely hard and stable. It is almost considered to have an immortal body in the world of Yama. In addition to the 9 heavens galaxy falling star array, there is another large magic array called the Sky Palace Silver Moon Extinction Array. This magic array is stronger than the 9 heavens galaxy falling star array. The silver unicorn is supported by a pair of horns similar to deer horns, or dragon horns. On its head, a silver sphere is born, and the sphere is shining with silver light. Enshrouded by light, it looks like a piece of glowing silver metal, and also like a moon with some shadow patterns on the surface. This sphere has always been small, only half the size of the silver unicorn's head, but the speed of rotation between the two horns is getting faster and faster. During the rotation, under the coordinated operation of countless magic arrays, the silver sphere became more and more terrifying, as if countless forces were gathered in a small iron ball. Let's call the silver ball Sky Silver Moon. When this Sky Silver Moon rotated tens of thousands of times, it was already quite unstable and even trembled. At this time, the silver unicorn rushed to the sky, aimed at Wu Yu's body and the body of the devouring heaven, and released the Sky Silver Moon from its horns. The seemingly small Sky Silver Moon crossed the space and appeared rapidly. Then, at a certain moment, there was a terrible explosion that shook the world. The countless forces accumulated inside burst out, and there were not only sharp fragments similar to steel, but also penetrating silver light, which splashed around like a meteor, as if the space inside the entire floating life tower was completely plunged into the dead silence of extinction. The devouring heaven body used the all things divine gourd and the Emperor's seal, 2 kinds of heavenly spirit Deo tools, to resist. The mist exhaled by the all things divine gourd formed a layer of iron shields, and the last layer was the Emperor's seal turned into a black shield, blocking in front of him. The silver Kirin was indeed powerful, but the devouring heaven body had two heavenly spirit Dao tools after all, and Wu Yu was confident that he could block it. As for its main body, it could not feel that the power of the heavenly palace silver moon annihilation formation was indeed terrible, but it could not scare Wu Yu. His confidence was beyond ordinary people now. After the opponent accumulated for a period of time before bursting out this attack, Wu Yu was actually ready. The Emperor of Heaven is coming to the Burning God formation. Almost at the same time as the other party, Wu Yu thrust the Kirin halberd in his hand towards the sky. For a moment, the fire Kirin flew up to the sky and exploded into golden clouds. In the clouds, the immortal king, who was bathed in flames, thrust the flaming halberd in his hand downwards. During this piercing, both the golden clouds and the immortal king were engulfed by the halberd and became the power of the halberd. This seemed to be a punishment from the gods in heaven. It suddenly descended at this time and stabbed the top of the head of the silver Kirin. To be honest, this was the most vulnerable moment after the silver Kirin had finished its move, and it was hit by Wu Yu's killing move. Of course it was dangerous. But Wu Yu was also in danger at this time, but he was very fast. After the performance was completed, his body quickly overlapped with the body of the heaven devourer. The power of the silver moon of the sky was indeed huge and terrifying. Under this shock, the defense of the all things divine gourd was retreating step by step. Finally, the strong silver light and countless sharp iron pieces violently hit the shield of the emperor's seal. At this time, the turtle dragon roared continuously, and the heaven devourer's body exerted all its strength to bravely block it. Boom! Even so, Wu Yu's two bodies were still knocked into the corner and were seriously injured. But fortunately, after all, there were two big heavenly spirit tools to resist it, and it did not hurt the root. However, Wu Yu's flame halberd and the Tiangong Emperor's burning god formation caused huge trouble to the silver unicorn. When he was at his weakest, he was hit from the front, and there was no clone to help him resist, so this time he was directly nailed to the ground and engulfed in flames. When he was so severely injured, it was obvious that he could no longer control the K-Silver Moon Nirvana formation that day, resulting in the power of this magic circle was greatly reduced, and Wu Yu's two bodies regained their freedom. Seeing that the silver unicorn had become a drowned dog, they basically rushed forward, and while they still had the strength, they beat the silver unicorn to pieces. Finally successfully conquered it. However, it may take several days for the silver unicorn to return to a usable state, so Wu Yu came in this time just to try his luck. It didn't take much time to kill the silver unicorn and ask Nanshan Wanjiao. The situation outside was still under his control and there were no surprises, so he still had time to make some preparations. This silver unicorn has been conquered, but it will take a few days to recover, and it will not be of use. Aren't you wasting your efforts in vain? Seeing that it was over, Minglong asked. Wu Yu said with a smile, anyway, there is no way to tell the winner outside. From what I see, it will be difficult for them to deal with this golden giant for more than a day. In fact, if they can deal with it, they have already done it, and they will not be in a stalemate. Now that we've got the silver unicorn, it will come in handy if they can't get it in a few days. It's an extra preparation. It won't be done for a few days, are you sure? I'm not sure, but you'll know if you look at it. If it can be done in advance, then I can only rely on the main body and the body of swallowing the sky in this fight. In fact, even the Black Phoenix can't help. Moreover, the silver unicorn was actually a surprise to Wu Yu. It is somewhat similar to Dark Phoenix, so it can be said to be part of the same series. There are three most powerful attack formations in total. The first is the Nine Heavens Galaxy Falling Star Array. The second is the K-Silver Moon Nirvana formation that day. Thirdly, this formation is actually the same as Black Phoenix's formation. It is also the Thousand Tribulations Super God Killing Array. It has the same effect. It is estimated that it will be used the same as what Black Phoenix once used. The difference is that this array is more advanced, more complex, and probably more powerful. It can be called the second level of the Myriad Tribulation Super God Killing Array, so Wu Yu can fully suspect that maybe the next one will be stronger. The puppet might also have such a magic circle. Certainly. The premise is that there is a stronger puppet in Fusion Tower. At present, with Wu Yu's current state, it can be seen that there is another puppet after the Silver Unicorn. In fact, it is easier to conquer the Black Phoenix and Silver Kirin. They don't seem to be using the Myriad Tribulation Super God Killing formation to deal with Wu Yu. It may be because once they use it, they will self-destruct, which means they have been defeated by Wu Yu. Since you are facing a heavy treasure and are so patient, you might as well let this sky-swallowing body ascend to the 6th and 7th levels during this period of time, specifically to hunt all gods and gods. In a few days, you should be able to grow to be stronger, Ming Tong said. I have considered this, but after all, this is the ancient soul tower of the ancient emperor. Many things in it cannot escape his eyes. I am afraid this will allow him to clearly see the capabilities of my sky-devouring body. Minglong said, to be honest, he should have known it a long time ago. This old guy seems to know everything, but he just doesn't react. If he did react, he should have taken action long ago, and there is no need to stay until now. If he is waiting for something, he will not react to such a good opportunity as the Fusion Tower. It is still unpredictable now, but this flame gold pearl is right in front of you. In fact, I advise you, either give it a try and get it first. Get this flame gold bead and go out and see what the situation is. If nothing happens, we will simply arrange a retreat and transfer your sister and others to the ancient demon world. You have nothing to worry about in this world. And then be ready to go to the ancient demon world at any time. Of course, the ancient demon world is not a good place, so it's up to you. It would be great if you could know what the ancient emperor means. When she said this, Wu Yu also felt that it made sense. Yes, he is so powerful. If you wanted to know, you would have known it a long time ago. For the last time, there is no need to be secretive. Now we are focusing on the first level of the Soul Tower. My body is also here, and everyone is watching. There's nothing to worry about. As for the rest, that's all after we get out. Wu Yu doesn't have many concerns in this world. In Suqiao, there must be Wu Yu, the master of the Tongtian sword sect, and the others. In the world of Jambu, the best one is Luo Bai, Princess Yuki. However, the ancient emperor was an immortal after all, and he probably would not be so despicable as to use such a humble mortal to control Wu Yu. So, let's fight for it. For the chapter Perfect Anti-Theft, please use the search engine to search for keywords, and you can read various novels. Heaven Swallowing Record. Author, Feng Qing Yang. Chapter 1130. Wu Yu planned to let Nanshan Wanjiao and his sky-swallowing body make a trip, and of course, bring the Fusion Tower with him. The time needed to swallow the body of the sky is definitely shorter than the time for the Silver Unicorn to recover. Nanshan Wanjiao had no objection to Wu Yu's arrangement. He took the floating tower away from Black Phoenix and went all the way up. The sky-swallowing body was inside the floating tower. They aimed at the 7th level of the Soul Tower and went there to kill a kind of all-things spirit that was hidden in the light. The sky-swallowing body had 2 heavenly spirit tools in his hands, so it would not be a big problem to kill them. If they could find 10 dozens or 20 heads, maybe more, can be swallowed, and the sprint is equivalent to the 8th level of the Dao realm. To be honest, the swallowing of the sky-swallowing body is indeed much more powerful, and it does not require any understanding. Wu Yu's true body stayed inside the Black Phoenix for a while, until he saw that the Emperor seemed to be in a hurry. He was too lazy to stay inside, so he went outside, shrank his body, and changed his appearance. He was near the battlefield and even entered the battlefield, but he still didn't take action. Let's take advantage of this time to learn the last art of transformation. The 72 transformations are the specialty of the Monkey King, Ming Long said. The great sage Qishan had already prepared the 5 transformations, allowing Wu Yu to learn these profound and unpredictable immortal arts in the mortal world, including body-holding techniques, violent techniques, divine movement techniques, and ghost traveling techniques. With so much help, I can finally practice the last one, but I don't know what this last one is. I have practiced in these Minglong disciplines, so I am familiar with them. Now Wu Yu has a good chance of becoming an immortal. It can even be said that what is blocking Wu Yu's path to becoming an immortal is not his qualifications, but the ancient Emperor Yanhuang. Maybe as long as he passes the ancient Emperor Yanhuang at this level, or if the Yanhuang ancient emperor himself had no ill intentions, he would have basically no obstruction, and Minglong would naturally help him wholeheartedly. This change is called exorcist art. Exorcist art is a change in the spiritual change, or the change of the soul. This instant change can allow you to fight in battle. Suddenly, the opponent is shocked mentally and spiritually, and to a great extent. It is like a sharp knife, and there is no warning. It is all sudden. This kind of change technique actually consumes the spirit, so in a battle, it's enough to use it 2 or 3 times. The last time I learned it was the Netherworld technique, which was specifically aimed at the magic circle or destroying the opponent's magic circle. This exorcism technique sounds more obvious than the Netherworld technique. It is the change of the soul. It sounds powerful. It is a kind of spiritual shock, but because the change is sudden, the change and shock can happen in an instant, and attacks and shocks that occur instantaneously are often the most effective. Every time he learns the art of change, it only takes a little time. The Monkey King personally integrates the seeds of change into his own soul. He only needs to think about it in detail. In fact, after so far, he doesn't know what the principle of the body fixing technique he first learned is. There is no way to understand it, the only feeling is that this transformation technique is an immortal technique, similar to the great immortal technique, but different from the indestructible body of Vajra. As for the art of change, he basically only knows how to use it, but cannot understand the principle of change. This has a lot to do with the fact that he is not an immortal. Therefore, what makes Emperor Yu even a little dissatisfied is that even at this time, there is no trace of Wu Yu. Others are looking for the last chance to fight. Even the second and third levels of asking questions dare to rush forward, just like Emperor Yu. People of this level were all fighting next to the Golden Giant. He was afraid that someone else would instantly kill the Golden Giant, but Wu Yu was still missing and had no idea what he was doing. In fact, Wu Yu had almost mastered the exorcism technique at this time. Now that the sky-swallowing body has reached the 7th level of the Soul Tower, he has already fought against all the gods there. It is estimated that it will not take long. Wu Yu is mainly waiting until he has the 2 other gods, the sky-swallowing body and the all things gods. Combat effectiveness. He hoped that the Golden Giant could continue to persevere. But it seems that under the continuous bombardment of countless people, it has no power to fight back. In the past, it could rely on fighting back to kill violently and scare others, but now this group of people are killing like crazy, and many of them don't care about their own lives. Life and death, so for a while, the Golden Giant's body was not complete. I'm here to help him and let him hold on a little longer. Wu Yu's idea was crazy. He was going against everyone. Of course, he had nothing to be afraid of. As soon as he thought this, he did this. Since the Golden Giant couldn't survive the recovery of the Silver Unicorn, he would help. He'll be fine until then. He first asked Dark Phoenix to go further away to avoid being spotted. Wu Yu, what do you want to do, Emperor Yu asked. As you wish, it's time to take action. Wu Yu's eyes showed a smile. He kept his smallest body, holding the Emperor's lin in his hand, and used the somersault cloud to change his form and instantly entered the battlefield. At this time, the most heroic group of people was still he was using all his strength to bombard the golden giant. There were dangers everywhere, but Wu Yu's transformation was really powerful, making him completely and constantly changing, dealing with the attacks, moving left and right, and in the blink of an eye, he entered the core area and faced the golden giant directly. He hadn't discovered him yet. However, he turned around and stared at other people. Not far in front of him was the Dark Prince. Wu Yu certainly didn't like him. At this time, he was using the dark stone pillar to bombard the golden giant. Wu Yu rushed up without saying a word and stabbed the Dark Prince in the back with the Emperor in his hand. This chapter is not over yet, please click on the next page to continue reading. The Dark Prince was about to make a move, but suddenly he realized the crisis behind him. He immediately turned around and saw that it was Wu Yu. He was furious. Wu Yu's attack was quite fierce. When he appeared, his magical power of the fire eyes and golden pupils broke out first, and the fire absolute fairyland immediately engulfed the Dark Prince. In order to obtain the flame gold pearl, the Dark Prince gave up his all-knowing gourd even though he knew Wu Yu was nearby. But Wu Yu actually came to his door at this time and took the initiative to attack him, which made him very angry. He was about to tear the flame and chase Wu Yu. When he chased him out, Wu Yu had already disappeared. "Wu Yu, get out of here," the Dark Prince roared, attracting the attention of many people, but no one found Wu Yu, and no one paid attention to him. The Dark Prince saw it and hurried back to besiege the golden giant. "This ghost thing is too thick-skinned, I have never seen such an unkillable one. I believe that many people feel the same as the Dark Prince. The solidity and recovery ability of this golden giant are really scary." Wu Yu disappeared in front of the Dark Prince. In fact, he went to the other side. In front of him were two huge demons. The first one was the sky-splitting cloud beast. It turned out to be a white tiger with huge wings. It flew across the sky. The magical power was used to tear time and space apart, but it could not tear the body of the golden giant. The other one was the yin-yang fish that burned the sea. It was a two-headed big fish without a tail. There were fish heads on both sides. One side was raging with flames, and the other side was frost. Water and fire blended together, and the power in the chaos was also terrible. When Wu Yu came here, he saved his energy without saying a word. He did not use the three major magic arrays, but the random magic arrays of the Emperor Lin Battle Halberd were very powerful. At this time, he triggered some small magic arrays, and the golden light thorns continued to burst out from the battle halberd, like the scales of a unicorn, piercing the sky-splitting cloud beast and the yin-yang fish. The two were fighting, and they were suddenly ambushed, and they were also shocked. After Wu Yu made his move, he immediately used the somersault cloud to get far away, so the two of them thought that the other party had attacked them, and they also quibbled, which immediately aroused their anger. The two gave up the golden giant and actually fought each other, so the golden giant always got a little respite. Wu Yu was very fast. After provoking one, he immediately went to the next one. Even if it was Emperor Yu and Emperor Xiao, he was quite rude. He went up and violently attacked them, forcing them to give up the golden giant to deal with him. As a result, Wu Yu fled in an instant, making them extremely Wu Yu. In less than half an hour, everyone was harassed by him, and he always ran away, making everyone angry. "Wu Yu, are you crazy? Are you sick?" Everyone was yelling and cursing, hating him, but he was happy and said, "You are sick. He is so cute, but you actually besieged him. It's too cruel. In the spirit of justice, I must help him and suppress you bullies." He seemed to be telling a joke, but no one laughed. The key is that if they stopped for a while, the golden giant would recover a lot. If they didn't attack for almost 10 breaths, he would be able to recover to his peak state. This situation made it impossible for everyone to distract themselves to deal with Wu Yu. Moreover, they were not of the same mind. Everyone was worried that if they took the trouble to deal with Wu Yu, others would kill the golden giant first. Wouldn't that be a big loss? Wu Yu was sure that they were not of the same mind, so he could continue to cause trouble and harass them constantly. Later, Wu Yu was absolutely awesome. He split tens of thousands of clones and rushed directly to the side of the golden giant. When everyone looked, Wu Yu was everywhere, and they were going crazy. Wu Yu, you have offended all of us, you are really looking for death. Don't think we can't do anything to you. They kept yelling and cursing, even Emperor Xiao. You are nothing, am I afraid of offending you? If you have the guts, come out and chase me, don't bully this poor little thing. Tut tut. Wu Yu was amused, it was very interesting. Emperor Xiao was furious, but he really didn't want to chase Wu Yu. Firstly, he couldn't catch up, and secondly, he was more likely to get the Yanhuang golden pearl than anyone else and longed for the throne of Yanhuang. So, it was very funny, the body of the devouring heaven was back, the silver Kirin was also recovering rapidly, and the golden giant had not fallen yet. The people outside were also confused by Wu Yu. No one knew what was wrong with him. 3 more chapters. Keep working hard. Perfect anti-theft chapters. Please use search engines to search for keywords. All kinds of novels are available for you to watch.